After going 29-9, winning the Big Ten tournament, and making an Elite Eight, Brad Underwood is going to have an almost entirely new team to figure out this year. I'm going to go through some of the offensive and defensive concepts of what I think Illinois could try and do this year. Illinois is returning only 14% of their minutes and 10% of their points, but Brad Underwood has shown that he is very willing to adapt to his team and just kind of run what is needed based on the personnel. I am confident that they'll very much have the ability to run a lot of pick and rolls, have great spacing, and allow some of their guards to really attack and score, one of them being freshman Kasparas Yakuchonis. And we're going to go through a play here. So it's going to be him right here getting this handoff, and then they're going to immediately kind of flip it and flow into a pick and roll. Now, Yakuchonis is a great passer, and we will talk about that in the next play, but he also really has the ability to score. He has shown that he can knock down the jumper, he can get downhill, and so here he just kind of has the tools to read the defense and do what is needed. With the defender in drop coverage right here, he knows that, okay, this defender is going to be moving back towards the rim. The screener does a solid job of also hitting the guard, but as soon as Yakuchonis sees this guard going under, he just knows, okay, I immediately have a pull-up, and that's what he gets to there. Last year, Illinois was 284th in assist rate, but I would expect that to jump a lot. Yakuchonis averaged 9 assists a game last season, and him along with Kyle and Boswell are both just good facilitators, and Yakuchonis is going to quietly be probably one of the best facilitators in the conference. So we'll go through this play right here. And so he's going to be getting the ball up here at the top of the key, which he does right here, flow into another pick and roll. And again, I think I want to emphasize the spacing. Like, he's spaced way beyond the three-point line. Then you have a corner, and then this corner over here that's kind of off screen. But there's a lot of spacing, and I expect Illinois to kind of roll with that as well. And so now as he comes off the screen here, drop coverage again from the big. And so he either knows, okay, I can try to get to this pull-up, or if he can engage this big, he's going to be able to hit the roller. And that's exactly what happens. I mean, you see the pocket pass there. He's able to hit his guy on the roll in a tight spot, allow him to get a shot up at the rim. Kylan Boswell, transfer from Arizona, is another guy that does really want to operate in the pick and roll, but he really likes to get to the pull-up more than anything. So this right here, you're going to see a high ball screen up at the top. Again, spacing. A lot of spacing over here. And then they have two guys operating on the strong side. So now as he comes off the screen, drop coverage, and so this pull-ups is here because the defense is kind of staying at home. There isn't a ton of room in order to pass or anything. So Boswell knows, okay, once this screen happens, hey, I'm just going to have this space right here and get to the pull-up. And that's something he did a lot last year, and that's really what he wants to do out of pick and roll. And then on this play right here, we're going to look at the passing from Boswell. Now, if you want to break down on all 10 newcomers for Illinois, I have it linked in the description, an in-depth breakdown on all 10 for Illinois. Boswell had an assist rate of 20.9% last season, but it was kind of an offense that based for a lot of guys to be able to get a high assist rate. So if given more opportunity, I could see that happening, but I do kind of think Yakuchonis will be more of the true point guard than Boswell. Either way, he's going to have the ball here, high pick and roll. Now the defense is going to be hedging, and so what the defense is trying to do is push Boswell back. Now what Boswell is going to try to do is drag out this big and create an advantage down low. He's going to be looking at this guy. If he stays home, he might throw it to the corner. If the low man stays to the corner, he's going to probably try and hit the roller. And so here, does a good job of getting downhill, forces this big to or this low man right here to step over and help with the big. So now it's an easy kick out to three and gets his teammate a wide open look. So last year, Illinois was slightly above average in both three-point percentage and three-point attempt rate. But I think there seemed to be a value of spacing on the wings and kind of the Underwood offense in general, but also this offseason, getting a lot of guys that shot well from three last year, able to space out on the perimeter. And so we're just going to kind of look through first one play from Illinois last year with that value of spacing. Now Luke Goody's no longer here, but he is going to be the one that is going to get the three. So high ball screen right here. Northwestern's going to be up kind of in a hedge. And so just look at the spacing again. You have a roller here. Now you have Ty Rogers, who's not a three-point shooter. He's spaced way out. And then you have Luke Goody weak side. You have a shooter in Guerrier right here, also shooter. And so just being able to get open looks for guys like this. So now as the ball moves, Northwestern's kind of jumbled defensively. Ty Rogers is going to be able to swing the ball. And Luke Goody's going to be able to get a three. Ben Humberkaus is probably the biggest prospect to fill this potential role as just the designated shooter, but in theory, Illinois has kind of 4 to 5 guys that can space at the 4 or the 5 spot. We'll go through a play here that's going to be Humberkaus here. And so he's going to be kind of setting the screen and going to pop. And I'm interested to see if Illinois goes to this more, because they absolutely can. He can be a guy that can just kind of pick and pop out here. He has a really good smooth form, shot really well from 3. And you can see here, it is deep. He was still kind of moving as he caught it, and it's going to be slightly contested. But at like 6'9" that he's able to just kind of rise up over with the quick release. I mean, he basically gets hit in the face right here after he releases it. But kind of that pick and pop ability that he just showed, I'm interested to see if Illinois is going to be willing to go to it more. And so now the other kind of aspect of having a very spaced out offense is, if it does get kicked out, in theory, there should be a lot of ability to kind of attack gaps and get downhill. And now a guy like Trey White is going to be one of those guys that I think could do it, especially if there's Ivisic at the 5 who can pick and pop in space. There's going to be opportunities for kind of catch and shoot, but also drive after catching. So high ball screen here, Trey White, we're going to be focusing on here. High pick and roll, White's going to do a good job lifting, giving his guy an outlet to release. But now here, as he catches, instead of forcing up a 3, which he didn't shoot great at, he's now just going to be able to drive. And so I think having a spaced out offense, a high pick and roll offense, it should allow a lot of these wings to, if they don't catch and shoot, immediately put the ball on the ground, either get to a pull-up or then get all the way to the rim. Another guy that will definitely be able to fill both the catch and shoot look, but also the ability to tack, is freshman Will Riley. And so he's a highly rated prospect, but right here, this is going to be him right here. He's really spaced out on the perimeter, and so as this pick and roll happens, now it's going to be a skip pass to Riley. Now Riley can catch and shoot this. He shot the ball very well from 3, but he also has the ability to get downhill like he does here. And so at his kind of size, I'm interested to see what he's used kind of off ball. There might be room for him to be more of an on-ball guy, but I think definitely an off-ball catch and shoot or just attack. He can get to this pull-up or kind of just get downhill. He does a good job with floaters and kind of changing his pace to get looks like this. Illinois in general has played at a more kind of up-tempo pace, and this season I think they have a lot of personnel that can do it. Yakochonis can be a grab-and-go guy. Boswell and Gibbs-Lawhorn are definitely both guards, athletic, that can push, and then they have a lot of guys that can fill the wings and either catch and shoot or attack, like I've kind of talked about for this entire video. Last year was mainly just Terrence Shannon Jr. though. That was mainly the guy who was going to be just, hey, I'm going to grab and go. Now this year I think it's going to be a little bit different. I think a lot of this concept is going to be the same, where in general, and this is common for pretty much every single school there is, but having multiple guys running the wings and then somebody bringing it up. But Illinois last year kind of defaulted to, hey, give to Terrence Shannon, let him create downhill. Whether he creates for others or creates for himself, something good's going to happen. And obviously that's what Illinois should have done, because Shannon was probably the most prolific transition player in the country. But this year could be more of like, hey, there's going to be one guy cutting, one guy filling to the corner, and then corner, wing, weak side. And I think Illinois probably can push the ball a lot this season. So offensively, I think there's a lot of possibilities and just kind of what they're able to do. But defensively is probably going to be the bigger question. They're going to be, this year's just a pretty wing heavy team for Illinois. There's a lot of 6'5" to 6'8", 6'9" guys that realistically can guard multiple positions. Now, Ivisic is a true big. Merez Johnson is probably more of a true big, but in general, it is a lot of guys that can switch. Now, they did not do it last year, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but 2 years ago, they were a switch-heavy team, Illinois, and you're going to see it right here, where it's switch, another switch right here, and the whole goal is just to keep the ball out on the perimeter. Now, eventually, Illinois did have to go away with this just because they didn't quite have the personnel for it, but I think kind of this concept of being switch-heavy, trying to keep stuff on the perimeter, is more potentially able because of just kind of what Illinois has on the wing this year. More than likely though, it will be a good mix of drop coverage against pick and rolls, and just in general, Illinois' defensive scheme wants to force mid-range. They were top 10 in the country in forcing mid-range shot, in large part last year because of the deep drop that they played. And this is going to be an example of it right here. So you're going to see this high pick and roll, and so what I mean by drop coverage is whoever's guarding the screener, which is Hawkins right here, he's just going to be scooting back kind of towards the rim. His goal is to keep the ball handler and the roller in front. Now he's playing very, very deep. Sometimes you'll see drop coverage kind of start up here and work their way back. He just starts way back and then from there works. And what that's going to open is this mid-range area right here. And Illinois, like a lot of teams are going to, is just like, hey, we're going to live with that shot. I do also think Illinois should have the personnel to be more aggressive on the perimeter if they want to try and force turnovers. Last year, they were number 360 in defensive turnover percentage out of 362 teams, aka they just didn't force turnovers. Now, If they are going to do that, even if they are in like the drop coverage, it's going to be because of these guards and wings. There's a lot of lankiness, a lot of length on this perimeter this upcoming season for Illinois that in theory can get in passing lanes more and just create more deflections. So this example is going to be one from Ty Rodgers, who is going to have to play a big part if they are going to go to this. And so it's just kind of getting around screens right there. So, I mean, he does a great job getting through. You also saw, as I rewind just a little, Mask here is going to reach in and kind of dig, but Rodgers is able to get back in front. And so now as that's happening, it doesn't really matter what the big does because the big can just kind of get back to who he has to guard because Rodgers is now staying in front and just staying attached and now going to be forcing the turnover. Okay, so one thing that is very, very consistent in Illinois' defense, though, is that they are going to limit help whenever possible. They were number 7 in opponent three-point attempt rate, aka teams just did not take threes, and this was by design. They want to limit assists, they want to limit three-point opportunities, and they want to force as many mid-range shots as possible. This is going to be an example of it right here. So as I was coming off the Chicago action, the pin down into a handoff, notice where kind of everybody's at. Rodgers is not peeled over, Gary is not peeled over. You have Danger going to be in his kind of drop coverage, but there's really no other help elsewhere. And so now, as they're going to eventually flow back into kind of this pick and roll up top, no help at all. They are just leaving it 2-on-2. Domask does not dig at all. There is no help from the weak side. They are going to be living with this 2-on-2 game, trusting that their guys are going to be able to force either a turnover or just kind of a tougher shot like they do right here. This is going to be another example of that concept that Illinois has pretty much consistently ran for a while now, regardless of what personnel they have. So Rutgers is going to go to pick and roll here. They're going to have this guy kind of flare out to the corner. But again, it is very much just going to be 2-on-2. And so what this is going to be, no help from any of the corners. Damas is going to be kind of stayed on his guy. And so what that leaves is, I mean, this is even kind of leaving it more one-on-one with this deep drop. Is Hawkins is really just going to stay with Amore on the roll. And so now all the emphasis is put on this guard, which is Terrence Shannon this time, to be able to stay in front and help contest. Now, I think Illinois probably has guards that can do this, but this leaving one-on-one may not be their absolute strength this year, but it's what Illinois I think has pretty much done for a while and what they probably will try to do again this year. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe and click here for more Illinois content.